My fiancé announced, "I'm not signing a prenup. You either trust me or it's over." I said, "You're right." Then I canceled the wedding that night. 72 hours later, she was on social media begging me back. 32 male or I guess was, engaged to Stephanie, 29F. We were supposed to get married in 2 months. Venue booked, caterer paid, frankly obscene amount of money dropped on a designer dress she just had to have. Our life was, I thought, perfect. We were that couple. The one people either admired or secretly hated. Good jobs, great apartment, future seemingly mapped out on a golden road. I own a small software development company. I built it from nothing. I started it in my tiny post-college apartment with maxed out credit cards and a diet that consisted mostly of ramen and caffeine. It's my baby. It's not a Fortune 500 company, but it's successful, employs a dozen people, and represents a decade of my blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. So the prenup, it wasn't about expecting failure, it was about prudence. My lawyer, who is also my oldest friend Ryan, insisted on it. He said, "You're not protecting yourself from Stephanie, you're protecting your company from a hypothetical catastrophe." It made sense. The document was simple. What's mine is mine, what's hers is hers. Anything we build together after the marriage date would be considered a joint asset, split 50-50. Fair, right? I brought it up with Stephanie last Tuesday. I tried to be gentle, framing it exactly as Ryan had, a business precaution, a way to keep things clean and protect my employees if the worst-case scenario ever happened. She looked at me, and her face went blank. It was a look I'd never seen before, cold, calculated. "A prenup," she said, the word tasting like poison in her mouth. "Yeah," I said, my palm starting to sweat. "It's just a formality, for the business." She let out a short, sharp laugh. It wasn't a happy sound. "A formality? You think our marriage, our trust, is a formality?" I tried to explain again, but she held up a hand. "No, I get it. You don't trust me. After everything, you think I'm some kind of gold digger." "Stephanie, that's not it at all. I love you." "Then prove it," she said, her voice dropping to a low, serious tone. It felt rehearsed, like a line fed to her by her status-obsessed parents. "I am not signing a prenup. You either trust me, or it's over." She stood there, arms crossed, chin tilted up in defiance. She was giving me an ultimatum. And in that moment, something inside me just clicked. The warm, fuzzy love haze I'd been living in evaporated, replaced by a chilling, stark clarity. This wasn't about love or trust. This was a power play, a negotiation. She was holding our relationship hostage for a future claim on my life's work. I looked at her, at the beautiful woman I thought I knew, and saw a stranger. I took a deep breath. "You're right," I said. A triumphant smile started to form on her lips. "I'm glad you see it, Mai." "You're right," I repeated, cutting her off. "It is over." The silence that followed was deafening. Her jaw literally dropped. Her face cycled through shock, confusion, and then a flash of pure rage. "What did you just say?" I said, "It's over. I'm not going to be emotionally blackmailed into a marriage, so we're done." She stared at me, sputtering. "You're going to throw everything away? Over a stupid piece of paper?" "No," I said, walking to the bedroom and grabbing a duffel bag. "I'm ending this because you just showed me who you really are. You see our marriage as a business transaction, and you just tried to force a hostile takeover. I'm just voiding the deal." That night, I stayed at Ryan's place. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just acted. I spent 3 hours on the phone. First call, the wedding planner. Cancel everything. Second call, the venue. I ate the $10,000 non-refundable deposit. Third call, the caterer. Another $5,000 gone. Florist, band, photographer. I systematically dismantled our future, one phone call at a time. It was an expensive night, but the cost of not doing it suddenly seemed infinitely higher. Stephanie blew up my phone, of course. A storm of texts, voicemails, first angry, then pleading. I didn't answer. I just put my phone on silent and got to work. Update 1. Okay, wow. This blew up way more than I expected. Thanks for all the DMs and comments. Most of you have been incredibly supportive. For those of you calling me a heartless asshole, well, you haven't seen the last 3 days. So the 72-hour mark. This is where it gets wild. After the initial barrage of texts, Stephanie went quiet for about a day. I guess she was strategizing. Then the social media campaign started. It was a masterpiece of manipulative vagueness, a black and white photo of us, smiling. The caption, "Sometimes you think you know someone. My heart is shattered, praying for clarity and healing after he decided to throw our love away over a piece of paper. Heartbroken, cold feet, love isn't enough. The comments were a flood of sympathy for her and vitriol for me. I was the monster who broke this sweet, innocent woman's heart. Mutual friends started texting me, "Dude, what happened? Are you okay?" Then came the escalation. Her parents, Ronald and Deborah. Ronald called me first, trying the intimidation tactic. "Jason," he started, no preamble. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you're making the biggest mistake of your life. You need to fix this. Now." "There's nothing to fix, Ronald. It's over. You don't just end an engagement to my daughter. There are families involved, reputations. You're humiliating her." She gave me an ultimatum. I just accepted her terms, I said, my voice flat. He hung up. An hour later, Deborah called, trying the guilt trip. The real kicker was Stephanie showing up at my apartment last night. As soon as I opened the door, she burst into tears. "Jason, please," she cried. "I was scared. I was stupid. I made a mistake. Don't do this. I'll sign the prenup. I'll sign anything. I just want you back." For a split second, I felt a pang of the old love. But then I looked at her face, and it just seemed theatrical. This wasn't repentance. This was desperation. She'd played her hand, lost, and was now trying to undo the move. "No, Stephanie," I said, stepping back so she couldn't come inside. "You won't sign it, because there's nothing to sign. There's no wedding." Her face changed instantly. The tears stopped. The mask fell. "You bastard," she hissed. "You'll regret this." The first real consequence I delivered was an email. I tallied up every non-refundable deposit for the wedding. The total came to $27,450. I attached the invoices and a spreadsheet. The email was short. Subject: final shared expenses. "Stephanie, as the wedding has been canceled, here is the itemized list of non-refundable deposits. Your half is $13,720. Please remit payment within 30 days. I have paid these in full to protect our credit. Regards, Jason." Her response was a single line. "Are you kidding me?" I didn't reply. I'm not kidding. This was just business. Update 2: it's been a rough few weeks. The term scorched earth doesn't quite cover it. Stephanie and her family have decided that if they can't get a piece of my future, they'll destroy my present. The passive-aggressive social media was just the start. They've launched a direct assault on my company. A flood of one-star Google and Yelp reviews appeared overnight. They were all from new accounts, using similar language. "The owner is unethical and untrustworthy. Do not do business with this company. The man in charge is a manipulative liar. Their entitlement is staggering. You hurt my feelings, so I have the right to destroy your livelihood." My first instinct was raw panic. I'm not a robot. Seeing my company's rating plummet and reading lies about my character sent a shock of ice through my veins. A longtime client called just to check in after seeing the reviews. "We lost a promising new contract. I can't prove the reviews were the sole cause, but the timing was damning. That was a $50 project, gone." For a couple of nights, I barely slept, just staring at the ceiling, my stomach in knots. But after the panic came a cold, burning anger. This wasn't just a breakup anymore. This was war. I called Ryan. His lawyer brain immediately went to libel and defamation. But he warned me, "It's a high bar to clear, and it's expensive. You need solid proof." So I got to work. They were arrogant, and arrogance leaves a trail. I didn't need to find a magic IP address. I just needed to connect the dots. One of the reviewers, a Sharon P., used the same username Stephanie's cousin, Sharon Peterson, uses for her public Instagram and Venmo. Another review mentioned a failed security feature in one of our software builds, a detail from a beta test that was discussed in an email thread I was on with Stephanie, who I had naively shared my work frustrations with. They were using private knowledge to make their public lies sound credible. It was their hubris that would be their undoing. On top of this, the apartment situation is a nightmare. I can't just remove my name from a co-signed lease. I'm legally on the hook until it ends. Stephanie, knowing this, paid her half of the rent 2 weeks late, making sure it hit my credit report. She's actively trying to cause me financial damage. The peak of their audacity came from Ronald. He called me again. "Jason, this has all gone far enough," he said, like a king declaring a truce. "I agree," I said. "Good. Stephanie is willing to be the bigger person. We'll forget that ridiculous bill you sent. You apologize publicly, and we can all move on." I actually laughed, a bitter, sharp sound. Move on? You and your family are trying to destroy my company and my credit. Stephanie is hurt. She's lashing out. You can't blame her. Okay, Ronald, here's my counteroffer, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. You are going to wire me $13,725 for the wedding costs. You will take down every fake review within 24 hours, and Stephanie will vacate the apartment at the end of the lease term without any further games. Do that, and I won't pursue legal action. He scoffed. You're delusional. You can't prove a thing. I have screenshots, Ronald. I have a documented pattern of harassment. I have an email where your daughter's cousin used her real name to post a fake review. You're not as clever as you think you are. I'm giving you one last chance to stop this before it gets very public and very expensive. He hung up on me. The ball was in their court. But this time, I was ready for where it would land. Final update. It's been a long, grinding 8 months. There was no single cinematic gotcha moment. Justice, I've learned, isn't a lightning strike. It's a slow, methodical grind that wears you down and costs a fortune. But we're finally on the other side. After my call with Ronald, nothing happened. The reviews stayed up. The money never came. They called my bluff. So with a heavy heart and a sense of grim determination, I told Ryan to proceed. We didn't just fire off a letter, we filed a civil lawsuit. The causes of action were focused and ironclad: defamation, libel, and tortious interference. Ryan advised that suing for the wedding costs was weaker and would muddy the waters, but we could use it as a powerful bargaining chip later. The suit focused on the demonstrable financial harm to my business. We had the evidence, the pattern of coordinated reviews, the cousin's blunder, the specific private details they used in their lies, and a financial assessment of the lost contract and reputational damage. The legal process was hell. It was months of discovery, depositions, and legal bills that made my eyes water. They fought back, of course, filing motions to dismiss and claiming it was all just opinion. Their legal strategy was to bleed me dry, assuming I, a small business owner, couldn't afford a protracted fight. This was the source of my sleepless nights. There were weeks I thought about just giving up to make it stop. I was hemorrhaging money on legal fees, all while my credit was taking hits because of Stephanie's lease games. It was the most stressful period of my life. The turning point was the depositions. Under oath, Stephanie's cousin crumbled when presented with the evidence of her online accounts matching the reviewer's profile. Stephanie herself, when questioned about the specific technical details in one of the reviews, couldn't explain how she knew them without admitting she got the information from me in confidence. Their lawyer saw the writing on the wall. He pushed for a settlement conference. The final confrontation wasn't a dramatic showdown. It was 4 hours in a sterile conference room that smelled like stale coffee. Me, Ryan, Stephanie, her parents, and their lawyer. Stephanie looked tired and angry. Ronald looked smaller, the bravado gone, replaced by a weary resentment. Our opening demand was for the full business damages plus all my legal fees. Their initial offer was insulting. We spent hours haggling. This wasn't a victory lap. It was an exhausting negotiation. In the end, we settled. I didn't get everything. I had to let go of the claim for punitive damages, and we settled on a number for the business loss that was less than I wanted, but more than they could afford to admit in court. The final check they wrote covered about 70% of my total damages and legal costs. As a condition of the settlement, they had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and a non-disparagement clause, legally barring them from ever mentioning me or my business again. And they had to provide written retractions to the review sites. I also demanded Stephanie's half of the wedding costs, and Ryan successfully argued it into the final settlement amount. It wasn't a perfect win, but it was a decisive one. It cost me, but it cost them more. The fallout for them was brutal, but realistic. Stephanie wasn't fired in a dramatic scene. Instead, news of the lawsuit, which is public record, made its way through her office. She was put on a performance improvement plan and sidelined from major projects. Her work environment became toxic. She quit 5 months ago. Last I heard, she's working a lower-level job and had to move back home with her parents to help pay for the settlement. Ronald and Deborah are social pariahs in their circle. The story got out. Not because people read court filings, but because rumors in wealthy circles spread like fire. They're known as the parents who coached their daughter to refuse a prenup and then tried to ruin her ex-fiancé when it backfired. They had to sell their second car to pay their share of the settlement. As for me, the money from the settlement mostly went to paying off the last of my legal bills. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt relieved. The grinding weight was finally gone. My business is recovering. We landed a huge new client, and I've been able to slowly rebuild my company's reputation. I'm not the same person I was. That cool, calm clarity I felt on day one was a survival mechanism. This process has exhausted me and left me with a deep-seated caution I didn't have before. I haven't dated. I don't know when I'll be ready to trust someone like that again. The experience left a scar. But it's a clean scar. A reminder that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And then be prepared for the fight of your life to get back what they tried to take from you.